Marcus wiped the grease from his hands with a dirty rag as he stepped out of the cramped maintenance bay of the freight station. The smell of engine oil and hot metal followed him into the corridor. Another day of fixing broken cargo haulers and keeping the remote station running. Life on Kepler 442c wasn't exciting, but it paid well enough for a guy who had learned to fix things with whatever parts he could find. The freight station sat alone on the edge of a vast desert planet, serving as a fuel stop for ships traveling between the inner colonies and the frontier worlds. Most days, Marcus saw maybe 3 or 4 ships come through. Today had been quieter than usual. Just one small passenger transport that needed a new power coupling and an ore hauler with a busted thruster assembly. Marcus had been working alone on the station for almost 2 years now. The previous mechanic had retired and the company hadn't bothered to send a replacement. They figured one good mechanic could handle the light traffic. Marcus didn't mind the solitude. After growing up in the crowded cities of Earth, the quiet of space felt peaceful. He was heading to the cafeteria for his evening meal when the proximity alarms started screaming. Marcus rushed to the control room, his boots echoing in the empty corridors. The scanner showed a ship approaching fast, too fast for a normal landing. The vessel's signature was unlike anything in his database. It wasn't human technology, and it definitely wasn't one of the few alien species that humans had regular contact with. Marcus watched through the observation window as the ship streaked across the orange sky, trailing smoke and sparks. It was beautiful in a terrifying way. The hull gleamed like polished scales, and the overall design looked more grown than built. Organic curves flowed from nose to tail, and what looked like wings folded against its sides. As it got closer, Marcus realized this wasn't just a ship designed to look like a dragon. This was something much stranger. The vessel hit the landing pad hard, bouncing twice before sliding to a stop just short of the fuel depot. Steam rose from its hull, and Marcus could see scorch marks along its flanks. Whatever this thing was, it had taken a beating. The proximity sensors showed the ship was huge, at least twice the size of the largest cargo hauler that normally used the station. Marcus grabbed his emergency kit and headed for the airlock. Protocol said he should wait for the unknown ship to make contact first, but the damage he had seen suggested someone might need medical help. As a licensed emergency responder, he had a duty to assist ships in distress, regardless of their origin. The desert air was thin and dry as Marcus crossed the landing pad. Up close, the ship was even more impressive. The hull really did look like scales, each one perfectly fitted to its neighbors. Crystalline windows ran along what he assumed was the bridge section, dark now but still gleaming in the late afternoon sun. The ship radiated heat, like it was alive and breathing. Marcus called out, hoping his voice would carry through the hull. "Hello, this is Marcus Chen from Kepler Station. Are you injured? Do you need assistance?" A section of the hull near what looked like the ship's head began to iris open, like an eye opening. The opening was large enough for Marcus to step through, and warm air flowed out, carrying a scent like cinnamon and ozone. A voice spoke from within, deep and melodious but clearly strained. "Human, I did not expect to encounter one of your species here." Marcus stepped closer to the opening. "Are you hurt? Your ship looks damaged." "I am injured, yes, and my vessel is severely damaged. I crash-landed here because my navigation systems failed. I was hoping to find a repair facility, though I did not expect it to be operated by humans." The voice carried a note of disappointment that Marcus chose to ignore. "I'm a qualified mechanic. Maybe I can help." "Mind if I come aboard and take a look?" There was a long pause before the voice answered. "You may enter, but I warn you that my species and yours have had little contact. You may find my appearance disturbing." Marcus smiled to himself. After 2 years of working on alien technology from a dozen different species, he figured he could handle whatever was waiting for him. "I've seen my share of different beings. Don't worry about it." The interior of the ship was like stepping into a living thing. The walls curved organically, and soft bioluminescent panels provided gentle lighting. The air was warm and humid, like a greenhouse. Marcus felt like he was walking through the throat of some massive creature. The corridor opened into a larger chamber, and Marcus got his first look at the ship's pilot. The being was indeed dragon-like, but more elegant than the mythical creatures from Earth's legends. Its scales were deep blue-black, shot through with lines of silver that pulsed gently with what Marcus assumed was its heartbeat. The creature was roughly humanoid in shape, but much larger, maybe 8 feet tall if it stood upright. Currently, it was lying on what looked like a nest of soft material, one wing folded awkwardly beneath its body. Golden eyes fixed on Marcus as he entered. The dragon's face was intelligent and expressive, with features that somehow managed to be both alien and familiar. When it spoke, Marcus could see rows of sharp teeth, but the voice remained musical and controlled. "I am Zarathan of the Draconic Confederation. My ship and I are both wounded, and I fear neither of us will fly again without significant help." Marcus set down his emergency kit and looked around the chamber. He could see several panels that were clearly damaged, their bioluminescent glow flickering or completely dark. Fluid that looked uncomfortably like blood leaked from cracks in the walls. But what worried him most was the way Zarathan held his left wing. "Your wing looks hurt. Should I look at that first, or would you rather I check your ship systems?" Zarathan's eyes widened slightly. "You would tend to my injuries? We are not allies. My people and yours have barely met, and when we have, it has not always ended well." Marcus shrugged. "You're hurt, and you asked for help. That's enough for me." He opened his kit and pulled out a medical scanner. "This is designed for humans, but it should at least tell me if anything's broken." The dragon watched with fascination as Marcus ran the scanner over his injured wing. The readings were strange, but showed clear signs of fractures in what the device interpreted as bone structures. Marcus had treated enough injuries over the years to recognize the patterns of a badly twisted limb. "Looks like you've got some fractures here. Nothing that should prevent healing, but you definitely can't fly right now." Marcus looked up at the dragon's face. "How's your pain level?" "Considerable," Zarathan admitted. "But my concern is more for my ship. Without her, I am truly stranded. My people do not know where I am, and it could be months before they think to look for me here." Marcus stood and examined the damaged panels more closely. The technology was unlike anything he had seen before, but the principles seemed familiar. Bioengineered systems, probably grown rather than manufactured. The ship's hull was clearly some kind of living tissue, which explained the blood-like fluid leaking from the cracks. "Your ship is alive, isn't it?" Marcus asked. Zarathan nodded slowly. "She is. Dragons and our ships are bonded for life. She is as much a part of me as my own wings. When she hurts, I hurt. When I am injured, she suffers as well." That explained why the dragon looked so exhausted. If the ship was in pain, it made sense that Zarathan would feel it too. Marcus had heard of similar bonding among some alien species, though he had never seen it firsthand. "What happened to damage both of you like this?" Zarathan's expression darkened. "Pirates. A pack of them jumped me while I was traveling through the Vega sector. They were using stolen human technology, very advanced weapons. My ship is fast and well-armored, but they outnumbered us 5-1. Marcus felt a familiar anger rise in his chest. Pirates were the lowest form of scum in the galaxy, preying on lone travelers and cargo ships. The fact that they were using human weapons made it worse. It meant they had probably raided human ships to get those weapons. "I managed to escape, but not before they damaged my ship's living systems and injured me in the process. We have been flying for 3 days, trying to find somewhere safe to land and heal." "Well, you found the right place," Marcus said. "This station has a fully equipped medical bay and a machine shop that can handle almost any repair work. Question is, Can your ship's living systems work with our medical equipment? Zarathan looked surprised. You would help repair my ship as well as treat my wounds. The technology is completely foreign to you. Marcus grinned. Buddy, you'd be amazed what I can figure out when I put my mind to it. Living ship just means I need to think of it like a giant patient instead of a machine. Same principles apply. Find what's broken, figure out how to fix it, and put it back together better than before. The dragon studied Marcus's face for a long moment. You speak with confidence, but you have no idea what you would be attempting. Dragon ship technology is the result of thousands of years of biological engineering. My people guard its secrets carefully. I'm not asking for your secrets, Marcus said. I just want to help a fellow traveler who's in trouble. If you don't want my help, that's fine. But if you do, you'll need to trust me to do my job. Zarathan was quiet for several minutes, his golden eyes never leaving Marcus's face. Finally, he spoke. Very well, human Marcus. I will accept your offer of assistance. But understand that if you damage my ship further, the consequences could be severe. She is not just my transportation. She is my partner, my companion, and the only family I have left. The weight of responsibility in those words settled on Marcus's shoulders. This wasn't just about fixing a broken machine. This was about helping to heal a relationship that had lasted who knew how long. He thought about the bonded pairs he had known among other species, the deep connections that went far beyond simple cooperation. I understand, Marcus said, and I promise I'll be careful. First things first, though. Let's get you to the medical bay and take care of your wing. Your ship will be safer if you're not in pain. Zarathan struggled to stand, and Marcus quickly moved to support the dragon's uninjured side. The alien was heavier than he looked, but Marcus managed to help him walk slowly toward the ship's exit. Each step seemed to cost Zarathan considerable effort, and Marcus could feel the dragon's scales radiating heat like a fever. How long have you been bonded with your ship? Marcus asked, trying to distract Zarathan from the pain as they made their way through the corridors. Since I was very young, Zarathan replied. Dragons choose their ships when we reach maturity. The bonding process takes months, and once complete, it cannot be undone. We grow old together, and when one dies, the other usually follows within days. Marcus felt a chill at those words. If Zarathan's ship was as badly damaged as it looked, the dragon might be in more danger than just being stranded. The thought made Marcus more determined than ever to find a way to help both of them. They reached the station's medical bay without incident. Marcus helped Zarathan onto the largest examination table, which creaked under the dragon's weight but held firm. The medical scanners here were more sophisticated than the portable unit Marcus had used in the ship, and they quickly confirmed his initial assessment. 3 fractures in the wing, plus some torn connective tissue, but nothing that wouldn't heal with proper treatment. Good news, Marcus said as he prepared a bone-knitting laser. Nothing here that can't be fixed. This might feel warm, but it shouldn't hurt. Zarathan watched with fascination as Marcus worked. The bone-knitting laser was designed for human physiology, but the principles were universal enough that it should work on dragon bones as well. Marcus had to adjust the settings based on the scanner readings, but within an hour the fractures were healed enough that Zarathan could move his wing without pain. Remarkable, Zarathan said, flexing his wing experimentally. Your medical technology is more advanced than I had assumed. Dragons heal quickly on our own, but this process would have taken weeks without assistance. Marcus finished wrapping the wing in a supportive bandage. Don't try to fly on it for at least a few days. The bones are healed, but the soft tissue still needs time to recover. I could not fly anyway, not while my ship remains injured. The bond between us means that her pain limits my abilities as much as my own injuries would. That gave Marcus an idea. If you can feel your ship's condition, you might be able to help me understand what's wrong with her systems. Think of yourself as a living diagnostic scanner. Zarathan tilted his head, considering this. I had not thought of it in those terms, but yes. I suppose I could describe what I feel from her. It might help guide your repairs. Marcus felt a surge of optimism. This was the kind of challenge he lived for, the chance to solve a problem that seemed impossible at first glance. He had always believed that any system, no matter how alien, could be understood if you approached it with the right mindset and enough patience. Let's head back to your ship and see what we're dealing with, Marcus said. Between your knowledge of how she should feel and my experience fixing broken systems, we might just be able to get you both flying again. As they left the medical bay, Marcus was already mentally cataloging the tools and supplies he would need. This was going to be the most interesting repair job of his career, and possibly the most important. Not just because it would save 2 lives, but because it might be the beginning of something larger. If a human mechanic could successfully repair a dragon ship, it would prove that cooperation between species was possible, even when their technologies seemed completely incompatible. The sun was setting as they crossed the landing pad, painting the dragon ship's scales in shades of gold and crimson. In the dying light, the vessel looked less like a machine and more like a sleeping creature, beautiful and powerful even in its wounded state. Marcus felt a deep sense of responsibility settling over him. This ship wasn't just a vehicle to be repaired. It was a living being that depended on him for survival. Tomorrow, the real work would begin. Marcus spent most of the night studying Zarathan's ship from every angle he could reach. The dragon had returned to his chamber to rest, trusting the human mechanic to begin his assessment. Armed with portable scanners, diagnostic equipment, and a tablet full of notes, Marcus crawled through access panels and maintenance corridors, learning the ship's layout. The more he examined the vessel, the more amazed he became. This wasn't just biotechnology. It was a masterpiece of biological engineering that made human attempts at living machines look primitive by comparison. Every system was interconnected, with backup pathways that rerouted automatically when primary systems failed. The ship's nervous system was more complex than most space station computers. But that complexity was also the problem. Marcus could see where the pirate weapons had damaged the ship's living systems, but understanding how to repair them was like trying to perform surgery on an alien patient while blindfolded. He needed to understand not just what was broken, but how all the systems worked together. Dawn was breaking over the desert when Zarathan found Marcus sitting cross-legged in the ship's main corridor, surrounded by scanner readings and technical diagrams he had sketched by hand. "Have you been working all night?" the dragon asked, settling beside the human with careful movements. "Couldn't sleep," Marcus admitted. "Your ship is incredible. I've never seen anything like her. But I'm going to need your help to understand how her systems are supposed to work." Zarathan picked up one of Marcus's diagrams, studying the careful notations the human had made. "You have identified the major damage points correctly," he said with surprise. "This neural cluster here controls navigation and spatial awareness. The pirates' weapons created cascade failures throughout this entire section." Marcus pointed to another area on his sketches. "And this region here seems to control what I'd call life support, but it's connected to everything else." "How does that work?" "Dragon ships do not separate life support from other functions the way your mechanical ships do," Zarathan explained. "She breathes, and her breath provides atmosphere for both of us. Her heartbeat moves fluids through both her systems and mine when we are bonded. Her nervous system coordinates everything, just as your brain coordinates your body's functions." The comparison made sense to Marcus. He had been thinking of the ship as a machine with biological components, but it was actually a living creature with technological capabilities. The approach to repairs needed to be completely different. "So when the pirates damaged her nervous system, it wasn't like cutting wires in a regular ship," Marcus said. "It was more like causing brain damage." "Exactly," Zarathan said. his voice heavy with sadness. The damaged neural pathways are trying to heal themselves, but they are forming incorrect connections. Her pain comes from systems trying to function through pathways that lead nowhere. Marcus felt a surge of determination. He had dealt with similar problems in electronic systems, where damaged circuits created feedback loops and false signals. The principle should be the same, even if the medium was completely different. On human ships, when we have damaged circuits, we sometimes have to cut them completely and reroute the signals through backup systems, Marcus said. Could we do something similar here? Zarathan's eyes widened. You would suggest cutting into her neural pathways? That is extremely dangerous. One mistake could kill her permanently. I know it's risky, Marcus said. But if the damaged pathways are causing her pain and preventing proper function, leaving them as they are isn't really an option either. And I wouldn't do anything without your guidance. You can feel what happens to her as I work. The dragon was quiet for a long time, clearly struggling with the decision. Finally, he spoke. In my people's history, there have been attempts to repair neural damage to ships. Most failed, and both ship and pilot died. Those few that succeeded required the most skilled bioengineers in our civilization. You are suggesting that a human mechanic with no training in our technology could succeed where our experts have failed. Marcus understood the dragon's skepticism. From Zarathan's perspective, this probably looked like arrogance or ignorance. But Marcus had learned something important during his years of fixing things. Sometimes an outside perspective could see solutions that experts missed. I'm not saying I'm better than your bioengineers, Marcus said, but I might see things differently. Human engineering is based on modular systems and redundant pathways. Maybe I can apply those principles to your ship's biology. Zarathan studied Marcus's face for several minutes. You truly believe you can help her? I believe I can try, Marcus said honestly. And if you guide me, tell me what you feel as I work. We might be able to find a solution together. Your bioengineers probably work alone, right? They rely on their knowledge and training. But we'd be working as a team, combining your understanding of how she should feel with my experience solving mechanical problems. The idea seemed to intrigue Zarathan. You propose that our different perspectives might be complementary rather than conflicting? Exactly, Marcus said. I fix things by understanding systems and finding alternative pathways when the original ones fail. You know your ship better than anyone because you're connected to her. Together, we might be able to do what neither of us could accomplish alone. Zarathan nodded slowly. Very well. I will trust your skills and your judgment. But we proceed carefully, and if I feel that you are causing her additional harm, we stop immediately. Marcus spent the rest of the morning gathering the tools he would need. The station's machine shop contained equipment for working with both mechanical and biological systems, since some alien technologies combined both. He selected the finest neural interface probes, calibrated them for the voltage levels his scanners had detected in the ship's systems, and prepared several different types of biocompatible materials for creating new pathway connections. The work began in the afternoon with Zarathan lying beside the damaged neural cluster, his hands pressed against the ship's inner walls so he could monitor her condition. Marcus used the finest probe to trace the damaged pathways, following them from the point of impact to where they terminated in confused tangles of incorrectly healed tissue. I can feel what you're doing, Zarathan said softly. It's like someone gently touching the edge of a wound. She knows you're there, but she's not afraid. That surprised Marcus. He had expected the ship to react defensively to foreign contact. She can sense that I'm trying to help? Dragons and their ships are empathic. She can feel your intentions through the contact. You mean no harm, so she trusts you. Marcus found that knowledge both encouraging and sobering. The ship was aware of everything he did to her, which meant he carried even more responsibility to be careful and precise. The first damaged pathway was a relatively simple case. The neural tissue had tried to heal but had grown in the wrong direction, creating a loop that sent signals in circles instead of to their destination. Marcus carefully severed the incorrectly healed section and used a biocompatible guide to help the tissue regrow in the proper direction. "How does that feel?" Marcus asked as he completed the first repair. Zarathan was quiet for a moment, then smiled. "Better. The confusion in her navigation systems has decreased. She can sense direction properly for the first time since we were attacked." Encouraged by this success, Marcus moved on to more complex damage. Some pathways had been completely severed and would need to be bridged with artificial connections until the living tissue could regrow. Others had healed incorrectly and were sending signals to the wrong destinations, causing system conflicts. Each repair required careful coordination between Marcus and Zarathan. The dragon would describe what he felt from the ship, and Marcus would interpret those sensations in terms of system functionality. When Zarathan said she feels dizzy, Marcus understood that meant the spatial orientation systems were receiving conflicting information. When the dragon reported her breathing feels labored, Marcus knew the atmospheric processing systems needed attention. The work was slow and delicate. Marcus had to stop frequently to let both Zarathan and the ship rest. Each repair caused some temporary discomfort as new connections formed and systems recalibrated themselves. But gradually, hour by hour, the ship's condition improved. By evening, Marcus had successfully repaired most of the critical neural pathways. The ship's navigation systems were functioning properly again, and her atmospheric processing had stabilized. But the most serious damage remained, the primary motor control nexus that controlled her ability to fly. "This is going to be the difficult part," Marcus said, examining the tangled mass of damaged tissue that had once been the ship's flight control center. "The pirates really concentrated their fire here." Zarathan pressed his hands against the wall and closed his eyes, extending his senses into the damaged area. "I can barely feel anything from this region. It's like trying to move a limb that has gone completely numb." Marcus studied the damage carefully. Unlike the other repairs, this wasn't just a matter of rerouting damaged pathways. The entire control nexus would need to be rebuilt from scratch. It was the equivalent of replacing a human's entire spinal cord while keeping them alive and conscious. "I think I can do it," Marcus said finally. "But it's going to take time, and it's going to hurt. I'll essentially be performing major surgery on her nervous system. Are you both ready for that?" Zarathan looked worried but determined. "If you believe it will allow her to fly again, then yes, we are ready. But please, work as quickly as you can. This level of intervention will be very difficult for her to endure." Marcus began by carefully mapping out the existing neural structure, identifying which pathways needed to be preserved and which had to be completely replaced. The work required absolute precision. One mistake could paralyze the ship permanently or worse. As he worked, Marcus found himself falling into the same focused state he entered when working on particularly challenging mechanical problems. His hands moved with practiced precision, guided by years of experience fixing complex systems. The fact that this system was biological rather than mechanical became less important as he immersed himself in the task. "You work like an artist," Zarathan observed during one of their rest breaks. "There is a rhythm to your movements, a harmony between thought and action that reminds me of the master bioengineers of my people." Marcus looked up from his work, surprised by the comparison. "I just try to understand what the system needs and give it to her. Every broken thing has a specific way it wants to be fixed. You just have to listen carefully enough to hear what it's telling you." "That is exactly what the masters say," Zarathan replied. "They speak of listening to the living systems, feeling their needs and desires." I had not expected a human to understand such concepts. The comment made Marcus think about the assumptions both species probably made about each other. Dragons might see humans as crude and mechanical in their thinking, while humans might view dragons as mystical and impractical. The reality seemed to be more nuanced. Maybe our approaches aren't as different as they seem, Marcus suggested. We both want to solve problems and help things work better. The tools and techniques might be different, but the basic goals are the same. As the hours passed, Marcus continued rebuilding the ship's motor control nexus piece by piece. Each new connection had to be tested carefully to ensure it carried signals properly and didn't interfere with existing pathways. The ship's living tissue responded to his work, growing new neural pathways under his guidance like vines following a trellis. "She's starting to feel more complete," Zarathan reported. "I can sense movement in systems that have been dark since the attack. Her strength is returning." Marcus was exhausted, but he pushed on. This was the critical moment. If he could successfully complete the motor control repairs, the ship would be able to fly again. If he made a mistake now, all their work would be wasted. The final connection was the most delicate of all. It required linking the rebuilt control nexus to the ship's primary power systems and flight muscles simultaneously. Marcus had to create multiple pathways that would coordinate perfectly, allowing conscious thought to translate into physical movement. His hands trembled slightly from fatigue as he made the last connections. For a moment, nothing happened. Then suddenly the ship's hull began to vibrate gently like a cat purring. "She's trying to move," Zarathan said with wonder in his voice. "I can feel her testing her systems, remembering how to coordinate her movements." The dragon's eyes were bright with tears of relief. "Marcus, I think you've done it. I think she's going to be able to fly." Marcus sat back on his heels, exhausted but satisfied. The ship's hull continued its gentle vibration, and he could see bioluminescent patterns flowing through the neural pathways he had repaired. The patterns were smooth and coordinated, no longer the chaotic flickers of damaged systems. "She needs rest now," Marcus said. "The new neural pathways need time to strengthen, and you both need to recover from the trauma of surgery. But yes, I think she'll fly again." Zarathan reached out and placed a scaled hand on Marcus's shoulder. "I owe you both our lives, human Marcus. When we arrived here, I thought we were going to die slowly, stranded and forgotten. Instead, you have given us hope and healing." Marcus felt a warm sense of satisfaction that had nothing to do with professional pride. This had been more than just a repair job. It had been an act of connection between two very different species, proof that understanding and cooperation were possible even across vast differences in biology and culture. "We're not done yet," Marcus reminded the dragon. "She needs to actually fly before we can call this a success. And you both need to be strong enough for the stress of takeoff." "Tomorrow," Zarathan agreed. "Tomorrow we will see if our combined efforts have truly succeeded. But tonight, we rest and celebrate the progress we have made." As Marcus gathered his tools, he reflected on the day's work. He had not only learned new techniques for repairing biological systems, but had also gained insight into a completely different approach to engineering. The dragon concept of listening to systems and feeling their needs would change how he approached all future repairs. More importantly, he had made a friend. Despite their different origins and appearances, he and Zarathan had worked together as a team, each contributing unique skills to solve an impossible problem. It was exactly the kind of cooperation that could help different species build a better future together. The ship's gentle purring continued as they settled down for the night, a sound of contentment and growing strength. Tomorrow would bring the ultimate test, but tonight, Marcus allowed himself to feel confident that they had achieved something remarkable. Marcus woke before dawn, unable to sleep with anticipation of the day ahead. Today, they would discover if all their careful work had truly succeeded in healing the dragon ship. He found Zarathan already awake in the ship's main chamber, his hands pressed against the walls as he communed with his vessel. "How is she feeling this morning?" Marcus asked quietly, not wanting to disturb the dragon's concentration. Zarathan opened his golden eyes and smiled. "Strong. Stronger than she has felt since before the attack. The neural pathways you rebuilt have stabilized overnight, and she's eager to stretch her wings again." Marcus felt a surge of excitement mixed with nervousness. All the theory and careful repair work in the galaxy meant nothing if the ship couldn't actually fly when put to the test. "Are you ready to try a test flight?" "More than ready," Zarathan replied, rising gracefully to his feet. His injured wing moved normally now, showing no sign of the damage it had suffered just 2 days earlier. "But first we should run system checks to ensure everything is functioning properly." They spent the next hour going through pre-flight procedures. Marcus watched with fascination as Zarathan's connection to his ship allowed him to monitor systems that would have required dozens of instruments in a human vessel. The dragon could simply close his eyes and feel the status of engines, navigation, life support, and structural integrity. "All systems show green," Zarathan announced. "Her power core is running smoothly, her navigation systems are responding properly, and her flight muscles feel strong and coordinated. I believe we are ready for takeoff." Marcus climbed into the ship's passenger area, a comfortable chamber lined with the same soft material Zarathan used for his nest. Through crystalline windows, he could see the desert landscape stretching toward the horizon. Soon, he would see it from high above, if their repairs held under the stress of actual flight. "Beginning launch sequence," Zarathan announced. Marcus felt a subtle vibration run through the ship's hull as systems came online. The bioluminescent panels brightened, and he could sense the ship's awakening consciousness like a great creature stretching after a long sleep. The takeoff was unlike anything Marcus had experienced in mechanical ships. Instead of the violent thrust of chemical rockets or the steady acceleration of fusion drives, the dragon ship lifted off with fluid grace. Marcus felt like he was riding inside a living bird as it spread its wings and took to the sky. Through the windows, he watched the freight station shrink below them. The landing pad where the ship had crashed just days ago grew smaller and smaller until it was just a speck on the vast orange landscape. The dragon ship climbed steadily, its movements smooth and coordinated. "She flies perfectly," Zarathan said with joy in his voice. "Better than before the attack, actually." "The rebuilt neural pathways are more efficient than the originals were. You have not just healed her, Marcus. You have improved her." Marcus felt a deep satisfaction at those words. This was why he had become a mechanic in the first place. The joy of taking something broken and making it work better than ever before. But this achievement felt more significant than any repair he had done before. They spent an hour flying over the desert, testing the ship's maneuverability and system responses. Zarathan put the vessel through complex aerial patterns, checking acceleration, turning ability, and high-speed stability. Every test passed perfectly. The ship responded to his mental commands with precision and grace, like an extension of his own body. "I think we can declare this repair a complete success," Marcus said as they leveled out for a return flight to the station. That's when the proximity alarm started screaming. Marcus rushed to the nearest window and saw 5 ships approaching from the direction of the outer system. Their configuration was immediately recognizable from the tactical database every freight station maintained. Pirates, the same type of vessels that had attacked Zarathan originally. "They must have tracked us here," Zarathan said grimly. "Pirates often follow their victims' trail when they escape, hoping to finish what they started." Marcus watched the approaching ships with growing concern. They were flying in a coordinated attack formation, clearly intending to destroy rather than capture. "Can we outrun them?" Normally, yes, Zarathan replied, but they have human-built weapon systems that give them longer range than my natural defenses. And there are 5 of them against one of us. Marcus studied the tactical display that appeared in the ship's central chamber, a 3-dimensional representation of the approaching threat. The pirate ships were fast and well-armed, but they were also clearly mechanical vessels with all the limitations that implied. An idea began forming in his mind. What if we don't try to outrun them? Marcus suggested. What if we use their expectations against them? Zarathan looked confused. What do you mean? They expect us to run because that's what you did before, Marcus explained. But now your ship is operating at full capacity, plus she has something they don't expect. Which is, Marcus grinned, a human engineer who's had 2 years to think about pirate tactics and how to counter them. Marcus quickly outlined his plan as the pirate ships closed the distance. It was risky and would require precise coordination between Zarathan and his ship, but it had the advantage of being completely unexpected. The pirates began their attack with a standard formation, spreading out to prevent their target from escaping while concentrating fire on the dragon ship. But instead of trying to flee, Zarathan followed Marcus's guidance and did something no dragon pilot had ever done before. He flew straight toward the lead pirate ship. The pirates were so surprised by this maneuver that their first volley of shots went wide. By the time they corrected their aim, the dragon ship was already among them, using its superior maneuverability to stay in the blind spots of their weapons. Dragon ships are living beings, Marcus had explained. They can change direction and speed in ways that mechanical ships can't match. Use that advantage. Zarathan put his ship through maneuvers that would have torn apart any mechanical vessel. Sudden stops, impossible turns, acceleration that defied physics as humans understood it. The pirates found themselves trying to hit a target that moved like liquid lightning, there one moment and gone the next. But Marcus's plan went beyond just evasive maneuvers. Their weapons are designed to track mechanical ships, he had told Zarathan. But your ship is biological. She can probably do things their targeting systems aren't programmed to handle. The dragon ship's hull began to shift and change, scales rearranging themselves to deflect energy beams instead of absorbing them. Parts of the hull became mirror-bright, sending the pirates' own weapons fire back at them. Other sections became transparent, making it nearly impossible for targeting systems to get a solid lock. Incredible, Zarathan breathed as he watched his ship adapt in real time to the weapons being used against her. She's never done anything like this before. How did you know she could? I didn't, Marcus admitted. But when I was repairing her neural systems, I noticed pathways that didn't connect to anything I recognized. I figured they might be dormant capabilities that dragons had forgotten how to use. The battle turned decisively in their favor when the dragon ship managed to position herself between 2 pirate vessels. Her hull became perfectly reflective just as both ships fired simultaneously. The energy beams bounced off her scales and struck the ships that had fired them, causing critical damage to both vessels. The remaining 3 pirates tried to retreat, but they had made the mistake of engaging a dragon ship in open space. Zarathan's vessel was faster, more maneuverable, and now operating with capabilities that her species had not used for generations. One by one, the pirate ships were disabled and left drifting. We should contact the Confederation Navy, Zarathan said as the last pirate ship powered down. They can collect these criminals and ensure they face justice. Good idea, Marcus agreed. But first, let's make sure they can't hurt anyone else while we wait for pickup. Working together, they systematically disabled the weapons systems on all 5 pirate ships. Marcus's knowledge of human technology proved invaluable in identifying the critical components to remove, while Zarathan's ship provided the precision tools needed to perform the work safely. It was evening by the time the Confederation Navy arrived to collect the disabled pirates. The 3 dragon ships that responded to Zarathan's call were impressive vessels, but Marcus noticed that they flew with careful, predictable patterns, unlike the fluid grace Zarathan's ship had displayed during the battle. "Your ship flies differently than the others," Marcus observed as they watched the Navy ships take the pirates into custody. "Yes," Zarathan replied thoughtfully. "The neural pathways you rebuilt have awakened capabilities that my people have not used for many generations. She remembers abilities that we had forgotten." The senior Navy commander requested a meeting to discuss the incident. Marcus was surprised when Zarathan insisted that he attend as well, introducing him as the human engineer whose skills made our victory possible. Commander Kelthera was an impressive dragon, larger than Zarathan and bearing scars from many battles. She listened with growing amazement as Zarathan described the repairs Marcus had performed and the new capabilities they had unlocked. "You're telling me that a human mechanic not only repaired neural damage that our best bioengineers would consider impossible to fix, but also awakened dormant abilities in your ship?" Kelthera asked. "Not only that," Zarathan replied. "His understanding of system integration and redundant pathways has made improvements to dragon ship technology that we never considered possible." Kelthera turned to Marcus with obvious respect. "Human Marcus, the Draconic Confederation owes you a great debt. You have not only saved one of our people, but potentially advanced our technology by generations." Marcus felt embarrassed by the praise. "I just did what any mechanic would do. I saw something broken and tried to fix it." "With respect," Kelthera said, "what you accomplished was far beyond simple repair work. You successfully integrated human engineering principles with dragon biotechnology to create something better than either could achieve alone." The idea clearly intrigued her. "Would you be willing to work with our bioengineers? To share your techniques and learn from our methods? Such cooperation could benefit both our species greatly." Marcus looked at Zarathan, who nodded encouragingly. The dragon had become more than just a patient or a client. He had become a friend, and the thought of working together to help others was appealing. "I'd be honored to help," Marcus said, "but I have a condition. I want Zarathan to be part of any cooperation program. This wasn't just my success. It was ours, working together." Kelthera smiled, an expression that was startling on her fierce dragon features. "Of course. It is clear that you two have formed an effective partnership. The Confederation would be foolish not to take advantage of such synergy." As the Navy ships prepared to depart, Kelthera left them with an invitation to visit the Confederation's main bioengineering facilities. "There are many challenges we face that could benefit from your combined approach," she said. "Ship designs, medical technology, even planetary engineering projects. The possibilities are endless." After the Navy departed, Marcus and Zarathan flew back to the freight station as the desert stars began to appear in the darkening sky. The station looked small and lonely on the vast landscape, but it no longer felt like a prison to Marcus. Instead, it felt like the starting point of a new adventure. "What will you do now?" Marcus asked as they settled in the ship's main chamber. "Your ship is healed and you're free to go anywhere you want." Zarathan was quiet for a moment, then looked at his human friend. "I have been thinking about that. My original mission was simple courier work, carrying messages between Confederation worlds. But now I have something more important to do." "What's that?" "I want to be an ambassador," Zarathan said. "Someone who helps humans and dragons understand each other better. Today proved that our species can work together to achieve things neither could accomplish alone. But most of my people have never met a human, and most humans have probably never met a dragon." Marcus liked the idea immediately. "You want to build bridges between our species?" "Exactly. And I cannot think of anyone I would rather have as a partner in such work than the human engineer who saved my life and opened my eyes to new possibilities." The offer was tempting, more tempting than Marcus had expected. He had spent 2 years in comfortable isolation, fixing machines and living quietly. But the last few days had reminded him how much satisfaction came from working with others to solve important problems. "What about my job here?" Marcus asked. "The station needs a mechanic." "The Confederation will ensure that a replacement is provided," Zarathan assured him. "Someone who can maintain both human and dragon technology, since this station will likely see much more traffic from both species in the future." Marcus imagined traveling between worlds, meeting new species, and working on challenges that combined the best of human and dragon engineering. It sounded like exactly the kind of adventure he hadn't realized he was missing. "When do we start?" he asked. Zarathan's answering smile was radiant. "Tomorrow, if you're ready. There's a meeting of the Confederation Council next week where I can present our ideas for cooperation programs. Having you there to demonstrate human capabilities would make our proposal much more convincing." As they made plans for their departure, Marcus reflected on how much his life had changed in just a few days. A routine job repairing a damaged ship had turned into the beginning of a new career and a friendship that might help change the galaxy. The dragon ship hummed contentedly around them, her healed systems operating in perfect harmony. She had been more than just repaired. She had been transformed into something new and better, just like the relationship between her pilot and the human mechanic who had saved them both. Outside, the desert night was peaceful and quiet. But tomorrow would bring new challenges. New worlds to explore, and new problems to solve together. For the first time in years, Marcus felt truly excited about the future. The partnership between human ingenuity and dragon wisdom was just beginning, and there was no limit to what they might accomplish together. In saving a stranded dragon and his ship, Marcus had found his true purpose. And in accepting help from an unlikely source, Zarathan had discovered that the greatest strength came not from isolation, but from cooperation. Their story was just beginning, and the galaxy would be better for it.